Now that we've covered self-energy building, we can get into group energy building. Now, by group, I just mean any two or more people together. It doesn't have to be a group of 5 or 6, it can just be you and someone else. Now, with group energy building, we can do a lot of the same things we were doing with self, just in different ways. For example, doing the hands apart thing, I can do with my whole body. I can have someone standing in front of me and having my hands out in front, and then just moving in and out from there, making sure that when my hands are fully extended, they're like, say an inch apart from the other person's, and just go back and forth without moving my body and doing the same thing, pushing and pulling energy. And because there's two people, then we get to feel things differently because there's different energy. Now, same thing doing the finger thing, I can do that with a second person as well and get a little more creative with it. I can have my hand out or their hand and can draw shapes. I can make little symbols. I can do spirals. I can do whatever I want. Now, as part of that, it can be a fun building exercise to have them close their eyes, for example, and then you take their palm or their arm. If you're going to use the arm, be careful because you don't really want to touch the arm hair, so you want to be a little bit higher, but you don't want to be like 8 feet off because it's not probably going to work either. But you don't need to be touching and you don't need to be like a millimeter. You can probably be about an inch and that's reasonable. And if you're going to do that, you can, like I said, have them close their eyes and tell you what kind of shape you're drawing or what number or whatever. Just don't go too in depth. Don't go for something like, trying to make the Mona Lisa. Well, they're not going to guess that because it's going to take too long. But something simple like a triangle or a circle or a square or the number 2 or something like that, it's not a bad way to go. And you can switch back and forth that you do it for them and then they do it for you, and it is a good building exercise. The next thing with the flow exercise, like you're doing with yourself, just sitting, letting it flow, you can do that in a group as well by just having everyone go around in a circle and hold hands. And what you're doing is you're just having the energy flow through you in a big circle. So you'd want to have it coming in on one side and flowing out the other. And ideally at the same time, if you're good enough, to get the energy flowing into your body as well. So just drawing it in and then adding that to the flow. If you can get everybody doing that and just have it cycle and cycle, you can actually get it to build. You can actually get it to increase because you keep adding more energy to the mix. Now, it doesn't matter if you're working with a group who don't all know how to do that. If you know how to do it and they don't, you can still add more to the mix. It won't grow as big or as quickly, but it'll still grow, and that's the whole point. But it's also important not to get caught up on ideas like clockwise and counterclockwise. If you're going to do it, I recommend letting it circle one way for a little bit and get it moving and flowing and building, and then switch and get it moving and flowing and building in the other direction. That way you're building all the muscles. You don't really want to lift weights by always working out your left or your right. You want to work out both. And that's what you're doing. You're working out flowing one way and then working out flowing another. And that's perfectly fine. Now, another one you can do while you have everyone holding hands doing that anyway, is you can work with a heart-based exercise. And what you're doing there is you're taking energy directly from your heart instead of your whole body and putting it into the middle of the circle, into the center of the group. And you want them to do the same thing. And that energy you want to mix and pool together so that it's not distinct anymore. It's just an amalgamation of everyone's heart energy. Then you want to pull a piece of that back. You, of course, don't want all of it. You want to give a certain measure and take that equal amount back. The stuff you give is going to be yours, and the stuff you receive is going to be all of yours. And that's a great building technique too. And when the energy comes back, you can take that energy, which has got the heart energy of everyone all mixed in, and get that flowing through your body as well. That one you don't need to really do building on, just the flow is better. I mean, you could certainly do more if you want, but it's really just the fact you're using your heart. That's the key element in that one. And that's a great technique because it also builds connection, it builds trust, it's a lot of things. If you're actually going to do any work with your heart at all, for any reason, and there's lots of different techniques using energy work with the heart, always make sure that what you send out, you also get a piece back. Because heart energy is just one of those great energies that we certainly could use a lot more of. I mean, I'm sure that's not really a surprise. Like, we could certainly use a lot of it. So if you always make sure that you're getting something back in when you're giving, that's a good thing. Energy isn't about give and it isn't about take, it's about give and take. If you're only doing one, you're missing half of the point. Energy should always cycle, it should always move and flow. And if you're only doing one, you're not doing flow because there's nothing else there. It's the same thing. If I'm pumping energy, I want to replenish it, and that's a way to do that. Now, the next one, if doing the same things, if you want to do shapes and colors and mold it like that, you can do the same thing and just have someone else or the group guess what it is. You can play a game of like energy charades and put something up and have them feel or see or tell you what it is. And it's a simple little game, but everyone can be involved. And like I said, you could have just someone next to you guessing and you switch back and forth, or you could have someone out presenting to the group and everybody kind of saying what they think it is, and then you tell them at the end. And that's another very simple thing to do. With molding of the intent, like I was saying with like throwing energy snowballs with an intention inside, you could do the same thing in a group as well by playing a game of sort of energetic hot potato, where someone starts off by creating a little ball and putting it with an intent, let's say happiness in this case, and then throw it at somebody. It doesn't want to go just around in a circle, you want it just kind of going all over the place, right? So then they throw it to somebody and the person catches it and decides what it is, and whether right or wrong, they then change it and throw it to someone else. So that if they guess happiness, they're right. If they don't, it doesn't matter, you just keep going. So the person that catches happiness can then change it to say contentment and throw that to the next person. Next person catches it, decides what it is, changes it again, and then throws it to the next person. Always just making it like that. Now, aside from those, there's also other things you can do that really are better used as a group that you could do by self too, but group is better, which is things like basic healing work. You can do simple laying on of hands. You can do it in self, but really that's what the flow exercises is you're already doing self-flow. So self-healing, it's basically the same end result, just different places you're putting your hands. So that's why I didn't include that one. But with group, you can certainly have someone sitting in front of you or across from you and do basic laying on of hands healing work. Now, it's important not to touch those inappropriate places, or if you're going to work on the face, to cover the nose and mouth and stuff so that people can't breathe. We don't want to go there, but we can certainly place our hands in better places like shoulders, or just hold their hands. We can grasp forearm to wrist kind of idea, right? Like, and just let the energy flow between us, whatever. And that's all you're really doing is the same thing, is just letting the energy flow from you into them, and then replenishing your energy from outside. Whether you believe it trickles through your head or courses through your body, it doesn't really matter. It's the same thing, you're just building energy. Now, where to place your hands, trust your instincts. Just be careful of those inappropriate places. And if you feel that an area needs more work than another, go ahead. Now, this is a great thing you can do because you can do work with a group. You can have somebody getting the healing and then turn around and give a healing kind of idea. Dealing with the basics, but you're still in that ballpark. Now, when you're doing all this stuff, it's important also to remember that you should do lots and lots of it. You should keep coming back to building exercises. Just like physical exercises, you don't just do it once and then never return. This is stuff you want to do all the time. And ideally, before you get into the group stuff, it's a really good idea to get really good at the self stuff, because then you have some experience. Now, again, the group, if you're working with them, you don't need to get people that fully understand what you're doing or into this stuff. You can do a lot of this stuff just as a simple game with your friends and family and anyone you normally hang out with. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're building your energy, not the environment you're building it in. That's not the key element. But I do, like I said, recommend getting the self stuff done and getting really good at that before you're getting into the big group. If you're doing it just with a group of people that are also trying to build, then that's okay right from the beginning, because you're all kind of in the same boat. It's just good to have one person at least in the group that has some experience working with the energy, because then you have something to work against. You have something to compare. Now, in the next section, we'll go more into the healing side of things and look at how we can do more with it. But use the basics and come up with some of your own techniques. What I've presented to you is just the basics. So go be imaginative, go be creative, and come up with some of your own. Have fun with it. That's what it's for.